The champs is here.
Yo, we out here on the track where the dreamers run. Each step a testament, yeah, we get it done. Crushing all the hurdles, wading through the pain. The Texas sun shines bright as we train in the lane. Push it to the limit, never look back. Texas track dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas track dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas track dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. So lace up your shoes, let the journey commence. Texas track dad, we build the suspense.
Yo, what is going on? How y'all been? It's been a minute. It's been a minute, guys. It's been a minute. But we got a good show on here today. We got Coach Tony on here. We're gonna talk some good stuff. We're gonna talk some sprints. We're gonna talk some athletes mindset. All that good stuff. Before I do, I got to give my shout out to my guy over there at Trackborn. If you need any equipment, anything pertaining to track and field, make sure you holler at my guy over there at Trackborn. But let's get into it. We're gonna bring Coach on now. What's going on, Coach? How are you?
Hey, good to be here.
All right, I'm good to have you, Coach. Good to have you. I'm give a little background about Coach, and I'm let him give y'all a little bit more. He has 44 years of coaching experience, football, basketball, and track. Illinois Hall of Fame track and field coach. Currently coaching at Plainfield North High School. Are you still there, Coach?
Yes.
All right. And the originator, Feed the Cats. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Feed the Cats training system, which focuses on speed, recovery, and optimized training for athletes. So, Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself before we hop into these topics.
Yeah, well, that's a nice introduction. I was born a coach's kid, so it's the only thing I've ever known. I have two of my own sons are very good coaches, so it's kind of the family business. I'm actually, you asked me if I was still at Plainfield North. The last year was my final year there after 44 years. Not all there. I've been at 3 different high schools. All public high schools, different size schools, small, medium. And then Plainfield North, not a big school, 2,400. We're like this 80th biggest school in Illinois. So that's been my career. And I'm not saying I'm not going to coach again, but I have a lot of other things going on. I've got to finish a book. I already accepted an advance for it, and I don't want to send the money back. So I'm definitely going to get that done. And I'm busy, podcasting and speaking at clinics and things of that nature.
Okay. Do you have any clinics coming up you're going to be speaking at that you want to shout out, or anything in the works to look out for?
Yeah, well, I'm speaking at a track camp at Monmouth University in New Jersey, and in late July. I'm going to do a one-man clinic in South Sioux City, Nebraska, in November. We always have our track football consortium in December. That's kind of a big deal. We have really, really good speakers. And then I'm keynoting the Oregon clinic in late January. And that will be quite a treat. So yeah, the clinic schedule doesn't really start filling up for another couple months, but I'm
Okay.
sure I'll be a lot of places.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, guys, be on the lookout for those clinics. We'll give you those social media handles in a second here. Like I was telling you earlier, I was on Instagram, and I came across one of your reels that just really caught my attention. One was about you can't safe coat a hamstring injury type deal. You talked about that. Um, and another, you got into your training on sprinters, also saying that you don't run your sprinters hard on every single practice, right? I thought that was really interesting. And then you talk about this athlete at state. He ran at state. He had a heavy load, but he ran fast. So I believe it was 2 days or something like that. You just spoke of as well. But we'll get into that. Like I said, you really caught my attention, and I'm glad I came across you on social media because I feel my audience they're gonna love what you have to say about some of these topics. Um, we gonna get into this. What role does college preparation play for high school sprinters aiming for success at the next level?
Well, I'm kind of controversial on that subject because, like my school, Plainfield North, like the biggest days of the year for the athletic department are signing days. And they kind of make me half sick because I don't think that high schools are a farm club for college athletes. I don't think our goal is to create scholarship athletes. I believe great athletes are going to get paid to play and all that kind of stuff. So it's not that we're not trying to create great athletes, but I just see myself as a career educator. I was in the
Hmm.
chemistry classroom for 38 years, and I see my 44 years of coaching football, basketball, and track in the same way. I think that the sports are the greatest classroom ever invented for learning and learning how to tolerate different types of people and different age athletes and all that kind of stuff. So, having said that, uh, I get criticized some because we are so minimalist in our training. My guys never, including my 400-meter runners, never run more than 3 200s at a practice. That was our hardest workout in our 19-week season. We have not done more than that in the last 10 years, and the biggest in the last 25 years has been 800 meters of sprinting. So we're very minimalist, and I get criticized sometimes because colleges are notorious for high volumes, especially in the fall. And people say, well, you're not getting these guys ready for the college level. Your guys are going to fall apart at the college level. And there are some pretty good college athletes or pretty good athletes, track athletes that people may recognize. A guy I coach, Marcellus Moore, was a terrific athlete, and he went to the University of Texas and had a great career. He holds the 60-meter record. He ran a wind legal 9.96 this year. He was 15th in the trials 2 years ago. So he's pretty good. He made the step into college just fine, even though you could argue that I did not prepare him for the volumes. And then Kamari Montgomery competed 5 years to the south of me, 100% feed the cats training. He went to the University of Houston, where he was a national champ and an NCAA champ in the 400 meters. And he never ran more than a 200 meters in practice. His biggest workout was 3 200s. Kenny Bednarik is a well-known guy. He ran at Rice Lake, Wisconsin. All these guys are like northern guys, running in cloudy skies and rain and snow and everything. Kenny ran at Rice Lake, Wisconsin, and he was 100% feed the cats, minimalist training, kept him healthy. He loved track and field. He went on to Indian Hills Community College, and now he's one of the best pros in the world. And then the fourth guy, Joseph Fambule, he ran at another northern state, Hopkins High School in Minnesota, another feed the
Hmm.
cat school. And you could argue that, oh, he hasn't had enough training. He did just fine. He went to the University of Florida. I believe he's an Olympic medalist, and he's pretty good. So even though we do not have the volumes that many of our guys are going to experience in college, they seem to do just fine.
And Coach, I'm telling you this. I am glad you said that because I get some kickback, not from a lot of people, but I get some. Cause first of all, so I'm a dad. I coached my daughter probably last time I coached my daughter, she was probably about what 7, 8. Then I went to go get people who knew track to take over because I'm a football guy, right? So I'm basically my podcast is more of a track parents perception type deal. I never claimed to be a coach or anything like that, but I talk to a lot of coaches, to see where they stand on things like that, and plus, the track and field community. But with that said, I posted last week that and I want to get your thoughts on this too. It kind of ties in to what you're talking about. Um, should sign high school athletes compete in the summer at JOs, AAU JOs, USATF JOs? Because they got to go through district, then they have regionals. Then when they get to JOs, sometimes they have semifinals. To me, coach, that's a lot of running for them to be going off to college in August. So JO is going to end first week in August, and they have to report to college like the second or third week of August. And I'm just like, hey man, that's too much running for them. It's too much. What are you trying to accomplish? What's your thoughts on that, coach?
Well, I think you probably know which side of the conversation I would fall into. I'm a real believer that that less is more. That in a Feed the Cats program, we pride ourselves in the disciplined pursuit of less. I believe what Charlie Francis said a long time ago. He said the great ones don't have to be pushed; they have to be held back. So what's going to happen is the great high school athletes are going to want to continue to compete during the summer. And if a kid really wants to do that, I would never ever say no. However, if he asks me, do you think that's too much? See, every state's a little different. In Texas, you guys are done with your state meet when you still have 3 or 4 weeks left of school. We actually had our state meet after our school was over. We had our state meet, 2-day meet, May 30th and 31st. So if you're running summer track, you're just walking from the state meet right into your AAU practice or whatever you're doing. And we have a 19-week season. We have an indoor season that morphs into the outdoor season. It's one big 19-week season. So if you are running 19 weeks and you have prepared for that season by doing maybe 6 weeks of speed training prior to that, that's like 25 consecutive weeks. And I know that if you're a great runner, a lot of time the parents really want they might sign them up for a meet every day if they could, because it's so fun to watch a kid go out and win and everything. But you're exactly right. Getting away from a sport is so important for your long-term mental and physical development and avoiding injuries. I love when my track guys finish the season and then they take a week off and then they're in football workouts. That is so much healthier than running another 8 weeks of track. That'd be like, for us, it'd be like 33 consecutive weeks of track. And like you say, then you go to college and college coaches are going to hammer you in the fall. I know of very few college coaches that do not do 10 times more in the fall than I would do.
Yeah, and coach, you owned it, coach. I actually uh, looked up pretty much like what should a freshman expect at the college level going in, and what would their routine be? And I'll tell you, it was about 2 pages long, and they talked about academics, mental, the mental stress they're gonna have. It was a long list, and you're right, coach. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Um, Also, you talked about tempo runs. I found that pretty interesting because I know a lot of track coaches are big on tempo runs. Um, how important are tempo runs in a sprinter's training program, and how should they be integrated into weekly practice, if so?
Well, you're hitting on another. I'm a lightning rod for this because I'm controversial. I mean, there's people that hate me because of my opinion on tempo running, which I don't know if anybody should hate anybody because of their opinion on tempo running.
Yeah.
Let's just say that when I ran in the 70s, uh, that's all we did. We did 10 200s, we did 8 300s, we'd come back and do 8 400s. We ran multiples of sub max running without spikes. We
Uh-huh.
not one time as a sprinter that also ran the 400 did I ever run a short sprint that was timed in practice. Not once. We never wore spikes in practice because with the volumes that we ran, if we would have run with spikes on, we would have had broken legs. And our coaches knew that. But instead of backing down with the volume, they just kept doing what they did. Now, fast forward to Charlie Francis, who I mentioned before. Charlie
Uh-huh.
Francis believed that you should sprint 2 or 3 times a week. I totally agree. I agree with 98% of what Charlie Francis says. But I don't agree on the non-sprint days that you should do tempo running. And for those people that don't know, tempo running is basically when you run sub-maximally and you still look like a sprinter. You're not jogging, but you're not sprinting either. You are wearing your flats. You may do 20 hundreds or 8 200s, and it's something like that. We just don't do that. Instead, we do exercises that we call X Factor
Mhm.
that is very microdosed. Things like plyometrics and hip stuff and med ball throws and isometric holds. We do all kinds of things. And we do those in very small doses, and that's what we do on non-sprint days. Now, because I want to be totally honest here, and sometimes I don't tell people this, there was twice this year in January. That was 5 weeks before the first meet that we did 5 100s. And I said, look like a sprinter, but don't sprint. And I said, if you get tired and you're thinking, I hate this, quit. Now, if you tell kids that, they'll run all five. What I was trying to do is just get them kind of transitioning from these 3 to 5 second sprints that we do
Mhm.
to a longer sprint where we do our lactate workouts. So even then, though, if you're doing 500s, that's not really the tempo that probably most people are talking about. Tempo is
Mhm.
much more high volume than that. So those are the only 2 times during the entire 19-week season. Well, if you include the 6 weeks prior, 25 weeks of track and field, twice we did 5 100s at sub max. And that's the only time we ever ran sub max. My kids have not run a lap in 25 years in practice.
Mm.
Not a single lap. And you say, well, how about your 400 guys? Nope, they don't either. Now, they run pretty good, in meets. They have to run a lap because they have to run the 400. But I believe the best way to train the 400 is to focus on speed and then strategically create lactate workouts where you're challenging glycolysis and you are getting poisoned with that acidity that you and I both know about. I mean, anybody that's ever
Uh-huh.
run track, you have that feeling when you run the 400 that's unique.
Yeah.
It's not just being tired; you feel sick. And so we do like 9 of those workouts per year where we are sprinting, 3 or 4 minute rest, sprint again, 3 or 4 minutes rest, sprint again, and we're extending that sickening acidic feeling for about 11 minutes, and that's how
Mhm.
we train for the 400.
Huh. So that's interesting. So your 400 runners, you don't have them running blowout 600s and
Oh no,
or nothing like that.
never.
Hmm.
We don't even run a 300. We never run a 300 in practice. We never run a 250.
Wow. For your short sprints too, or just your long sprints?
I cut my sprint group down to 35. I don't think I can
Uh-huh.
coach more than 35 kids very well. So
Uh-huh.
anybody that doesn't make my sprint group, they get to go run distance or they can walk away. So
Gotcha.
my
Gotcha.
35 sprinters are my short sprinters, my long sprinters, my hurdlers, and my jumpers. And so my 400 guys, and we were uh, not this year, but the year before, we ran the fastest 4x4 time in the previous 7 years in the state of Illinois. So we're not
Uh-huh.
bad at what we do. Now, our times are not Texas times, and I'll tell you why. Illinois and Texas may have the exact same athlete, and they're not as fast in Illinois as they would be in Texas. But
Gotcha. Gotcha.
but
Uh-huh.
so I won't say what our time was, but it was
Uh-huh.
Illinois fast. I'll say it. We ran 3:17, which is
Uh-huh.
really good for Illinois, and
Mhm.
and we did that with these lactate workouts, and never over distance, never a full 400, never a 250, and we were always spiked up, and we were always competing.
And that's good information, Coach. Let me ask you this too. So, how do you build your athletes' endurance for the four? If y'all don't run, those distances, those
The
long.
answer is we don't. We we
Gotcha.
we absolutely okay. So you understand.
Yeah, yeah,
You understand why I am
yeah.
sometimes called a polarizing person, okay? But I'm telling you right now,
Yeah,
Vance, you would have
yeah,
loved to run on my track team. Whatever love you had of track, it would have been double running for me because
yeah.
we are only on the track 4 days a week, and we never run more than 200 meters. Now, those days when we run 3 2s and we time each one and you only get 4 minutes rest,
Uh,
you'll probably be in a fetal position afterwards for 15 to 20 minutes. Some guys might be throwing up because of all the acidity, and you got to purge that hydrochloric out of your gut so you don't
uh,
get too acidic. So yeah, I'm not saying it's all easy, but
mhm,
we ignore traditional aerobic conditioning. We ignore it. And what we have found is that when we stack together high level anaerobic work, now there are people that will fight me on this because the textbook doesn't agree with me, but sometimes textbooks are wrong. So I believe, no, I know that we can get in reasonable aerobic shape by
mhm,
doing what we do. Now, are my guys capable of going out and running a great 800 meters? No. I mean, we ran 741 and 744 in the 4x8 the last 2 years. So we are like
uh,
legit nationally ranked 4x8 teams. But
yeah,
every single 4x8 guy was a cross country kid. They came from the distance group. So my guys are not in the aerobic conditioning to run the 8 or the 16 or the
I
32,
got you. Hmm.
but we are good enough to run a great 400. And if you think about it, I have to tell my kids this all the time. All the time. No matter how many miles we would run in training, the end of the 400 is going to hurt. No matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, and if it doesn't hurt, then you didn't run fast enough. So it's really a different type of conditioning. It's a long sprint. It's
Hmm.
not an endurance race.
Gotcha. Got Coach. I know those sprinters love your team. Them short sprinters. I know they. We don't have to run no.
Yeah,
Now, let me ask you this: what about your 4x4? Are those sprinters are they're going on that too? Just like your
100%.
100 meter? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And
All right.
I train every one of my sprinters to be able to run the 4x4. Every
Gotcha.
single one of them. And I think that the running the 400 will eventually help the 200. I really believe that.
Hmm.
And it's just, if you look at Van Niekerk when he set the world record,
Hmm.
this is unbelievable. But in the first 200 of your 400, you need to be whatever your true PR the 200 is plus one. plus one. So let's say you're a 22 guy in the 200. You need to run the
Uh,
first half in 23 and the second half in 25. You need to be plus one on the first half, plus three on the second half. That's how you run. So you better be able to run a pretty good 200, or you're not going to be able to run
mm,
48.
yeah, yeah,
And Lee
yeah.
Kirk ran his first 200 in 20.50. Think about that. First half of the 400, 20.50, which means that he's capable of running a 19.50 in the 200. That's why world records are hard to break, because you have to be really
Mm,
freaking fast. Now,
yeah, yeah.
in the last 100 of his race, he died. He ran at 12.05 in the final 100 of his 400 when he broke the world record. But he was so fast to the 100, the 200, and the 300 that he just held on and put up with the pain and suffering that we all know about to break the world record.
Wow. That's coach. That's interesting. That is. Woo! This is my first time hearing this. Because Texas down here, it's gonna be a no go for well the most coaches that I know, they especially the quarter horses down here, they run 10 600s and yeah, it's wild. It's wild. This is interesting.
Believe
And,
it or not,
and
though,
you are
Vance,
very
there are at least 50 Feed the Cats track programs in Texas, and there are at
mm,
least 100 Feed the Cats football teams, which is that's
nice.
a whole different thing now. And when you get
Yeah.
football coaches to agree to shorter
Uh-huh.
practices and no
Uh-huh.
conditioning, that's crazy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Especially down here because football is big. That's
Yes,
pretty
but,
impressive, coach.
but
That's
coaches want to
impressive.
win. If I
Yeah,
show them a better way to win games, they'll do it.
yeah, yeah. Did you I'm pretty sure you have. You explain the program to them, and some coaches be like, "Man, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work, coach." But then they try it out. They're like, "Oh, snap! It does work." Do you get that sometimes? Or
Yes, and
okay,
then there's
okay,
just
yeah,
there's so many things that go with it. When you do
hmm
less, you never run a lap, never more than a 200 in practice, and you only do that 9 times in a 19-week season. And
uh,
you're only on the track 4 days a week. Your kids start going to practice, and they're not saying this sucks. They're not saying
hmm
I can't wait till
I
this is
get it.
over. I
Yeah,
don't think you can be as good as you could be without
hmm
loving not just the meets, but loving practice. And when
yeah,
kids love practice, they they get better, and it makes it so much more fun for me to coach kids who love
yeah.
practice. And then you throw in this other thing too: injuries pretty much disappear. That's huge.
It and coach, I'm glad you said that. I actually seen that on one of your videos that you was talking, and we're going to talk about this pretty soon here about the sprinters DNA and all that. But you said, hey, if that athlete truly loves what they're doing, they have to love the sport, to be good, to be great, and that's true. And a lot of times I see, especially in youth track, I am glad I'm done with it. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen parents yelling at 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and just turn them all the way down for something, that it shouldn't be that serious to me because for one, it's youth track, that kids still developing. And I just think a lot of times that a lot of parents they're too hard on their kids because they chasing medals, they chasing the accolades, and have you asked the kid how they're doing is my point. Are you looking at the kids mannerism? Are they enjoying track? A lot of times they're not because they're so stressed out they can't enjoy it anymore. Then when they get to their senior year or when they go off to college, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. They just quit altogether. But that's a good point, coach. That's a really good point.
And
Um,
I think
Go
we've
ahead, coach.
been fed that we've been all fed this idea that when you win, you must outwork the team that you lost or that lost, or if you win a race, you outworked everybody else. That we every great athlete and every great coach will tell you it wasn't anything to do with DNA or they were in the right place at the right time. They will tell you they outworked everybody. And so if we have been fed this all of our life, it's hard for parents to step back and say, you know, if we run guys till they're injured, we've run them too much.
Yeah.
So we want to never burn the stake with a young athlete. And I would even say, even as an athlete, I believe college athletes are young athletes. You know,
Yeah.
I believe that injuries are unacceptable at every level. That if we have 20% of our team injured, we have to look ourselves in the mirror as coaches and say, we did this. But you know what coaches do? They blame the kids. They say the kids aren't getting enough sleep. They're partying too
Yeah.
much. They throw the kids under the bus. Instead, I'm like, all I can control is what I do, and so
Mhm.
we want to be on the side of the what I call the hormesis curve, where you have
Mhm.
a certain amount of work is beneficial, and then you hit the point of diminishing returns, and then you go downhill. We never want to go downhill.
Yeah. Yeah. You exactly right. And I just think that, and we talked about this as far we go. I guess we'll hop on since we're talking about hamstrings and injuries and stuff like that. I just think that in college too, those coaches they'll push those athletes past their limit. For one, I guess you know their jobs on the line. But like I was telling you in the pre-show, I'm at a track meet. I see this young lady barely making it over the finish line. Her hamstring is wrapped up. I don't even know. I don't even know how she got in the starting blocks yet, even running. I just think sometimes, man, it's just too much, and you pushing an athlete like that, it's gonna mess with their mental too, coach. I believe, but that's why it's important, parents that's listening, athletes that's listening, when you go on official visits, ask a lot of questions. Talk to the athletes talk to the athletes that go there or away from the coaches, because they are the ones that are gonna tell you like it is. You talk to them away from the coaches, and they will tell you exactly like it is, right? They'll tell you exactly like it is. As far as this hamstring, you talked about that. Is it possible to bulletproof a hamstring injury, or is the hamstring vulnerable more about weakness or imbalance?
That's a really good question. The hamstring, I used to call it the curse of speed because you had to be pretty damn fast to pull a hamstring. I used to say that 90% of 4x1 hamstring injuries happens with the anchor leg, not leg one,
Mhm.
two, or three. You have to be fast. Slow people have a hard
Mm.
time pulling a hamstring. So it's really important to understand a couple things. One is people who work in a weight room want the weight room to be the answer to all problems. So they have kids do RDLs and they have them do Nordics.
Mhm.
Uh, Boo Schexnayder, probably the guy in track and field that I respect most of all. Boo Schexnayder said that Nordics are the cause of the disease, not part of the cure. He said the same thing about RDLs, that it fatigues the hamstring and it's a slow contraction, both concentric, eccentric. Those eccentric things are slow, and there's nothing slow in sprinting. So if the greatest track coach that's ever lived, and by the way, Boo Schexnayder is a low volume sprint coach like I am. Uh,
Mm.
I mean, he was a huge influence to feed the cats.
Mhm.
So what we do, and I think this is what you can do. You lower the volume, which we've already talked about. You must expose the muscle tissue to sprinting from day one. I mean, there are too many teams. And if you go to a typical college team, it's going to seem like cross country all fall. Heavy weight room sessions, heavy volume, 2200s. I mean, it's crazy the things I have heard that college teams do. What they
Mhm.
don't do in the fall, they don't sprint. They build up capacity. And I asked a college coach I really respect, I said, why do you treat the fall like a cross country program when kids are going to be running 10 or 20-second races in the spring? He goes, well, we have to get them ready for 2-hour practices. And I couldn't even talk. I was like,
Mm.
why do you have to practice 2 hours? You know, my practices are 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm.
You do not have to practice for 2 hours, but they think that they do. And I think it's because college coaches are paid to be the coach. They're not teaching chemistry 5 times a day like I did. So they feel like if they're only practicing an hour, then they're not worth the big money or whatever they get for coaching, which in track, it's not very high. I was asked to apply for the Notre Dame job a couple years ago. And
Mhm.
I looked into it, and it would be a $20,000 pay cut for me,
Oh, wow.
going from high school teaching and coaching to head coach for Notre Dame track and field. So when you
Mhm.
look at that, you think, well, maybe some of these college coaches aren't all that great, you know, because they're not getting much money for doing it. So anyway, they don't sprint. If you are not, if your nervous system is not ready for the contract and relax cycle that has to happen like nanosecond, when you elongate a contracted muscle that is staying contracted because it's not used to relaxing quickly, you're going to tear a hamstring.
Mm.
That's going to happen. So the number one thing is to sprint in low doses and never get away from it. There's never a time when you're out running 6 miles if you're a sprinter, ever. You're better off running 3 5-second sprints and getting timed. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that we do is something called reflexive performance reset, which is called initials RPR. And people that hear this can look it up. RPR is an absolute godsend in terms of eliminating soft tissue injuries. Uh,
Okay.
it's so crazy, Vance. I have seen sometimes a guy will not hurt his hamstring, but will feel a
Mhm.
grabbing type thing. It says, "Coach, it hurts when I walk. It hurts when I." Well, when did you hurt it? I don't know. Well, what that is the brain basically shutting you down. The brain has said
Mm.
you're running way too fast and this is dangerous. So, so that guy can't run. There are things that we can do on a massage table by pressing
Mhm.
certain points and focusing on breathing that will release that grabbing thing, and that
Mhm.
guy will go out and run fast 15 minutes later. It's almost a miraculous thing.
Mm.
It's called RPR. I've written a lot about it. I have stuff
Okay.
on the YouTube channel that if people want to look it up.
RPR. Yeah, I heard you talk about that on that reel you posted. That's pretty interesting too. That recovery is I believe that's an important deal too for track athletes, and it's scary, especially on the youth level. You ask some of the athletes, have you been to a recovery or anything like that? But it's kind of like you want to start them young, in my eyes, because they're gonna have to do that throughout their track and field career if they're gonna want to you know run for a long time. But that's pretty important. And you got a couple of questions here I'm gonna get to. Somebody put in the comment section, but I want to ask you this real quick since we talking about the hamstring deal, and you also said you have to be fast, pull hamstring, all that good stuff. But you spoke about elite sprinters, contact to the ground. And I believe you said it's almost 0 seconds, 0.08 seconds. Basically, you saying sprinters don't spend a long time with ground contact at all.
Well, if you rounded it to the nearest whole number, it would be 0, because The best sprinters spend 1/12 of a second on the ground. That's 0.08 seconds. Now, to do that, a couple things have to happen. You have to hit the ground with great force, and you have to also have an explosive foot ankle complex. The most forgotten part of a sprinter's body is the foot and ankle. And one of the reasons for that is because in the weight room, people don't train it. Now, what we do a lot of isometric work to strengthen the
Uh-huh.
tendon. Your tendons provide the elasticity that is almost like free energy. And that elasticity is something that man, if I want to be fast, I want to be elastic. I want my tendons to be like tight rubber bands that
Mhm.
can store a lot of energy in them. I
Mhm.
think that people that run with their muscles, so to speak, they get tired when they're those guys that try hard and lose. But
Mhm.
those guys that finish a race and win and they make it look easy, those guys have great elasticity. So the ability to
Mm.
hit the ground hard, and that's why the knee has to come up, and the foot has to be up off the ground. If you look at a distance runner that's fast, his his feet come off the ground about 6 inches. If you look at Noah Lyles or Usain Bolt, his feet are coming up. I mean, there are some times when they are about 4 feet airborne, that their front foot is 4 feet off the ground because
Mm.
they hit that ground so hard that they bounce right back. And by the way, that's why we wear spikes. We do not wear spikes to grab the ground. We wear sprint spikes because it has no cushion. If you are running, if you are trying to sprint
Mm.
like Hoka's, they're a really padded distance shoe, that padding will absorb a lot of the force that you're trying to put into the ground, and the ground will not send the force back up into your foot. So we wear as sprinters, we wear spikes without cushion, and that allows us to hit that ground hard. That's also why a hard track is faster than a soft track.
Mm. And because that's some good stuff. Because you are the I don't hear it often. Actually, this is the second time I heard it from a coach. First coach um, that talked about strengthening, getting your ankle strong, and all that good stuff was Coach Danny McCray, and he coached some phenomenal sprinters, Maxwell twins, and all them. But that is interesting because I don't ever hear. This is the second time I heard that, like, ever,
Well, you know what happens
ever.
is that I say that phenoms like Marcellus Moore that I coached, the four guys I referenced, Montgomery, Moore, Famboulet, and Benaric, those guys were not coach made. Those guys were phenoms before they ever met their first great coach.
Mm,
And they probably didn't have a lot of foot ankle work. They probably just had great feet and ankles to begin with. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
But
Uh huh. Uh-huh.
as a coach, if you're coaching a phenom, the number one thing is to keep them healthy and happy. Happy meaning
Yeah.
mentally healthy,
Hmm.
loving the sport. They're always available, and that's the number one thing to do for them. But the true high school coach can take that kid that runs 17 or 18 miles an hour as a freshman and maybe get them up to 21 or 22 miles an hour, which may or may not really help you and your team. But the way you get that type of improvement is by doing the little things like feet and ankles.
Mm. So, would you say? Will you rate that higher than hamstring? Would you, if you have to focus on one or the other, would you focus on the foot and the ankle or the hamstring?
For different reasons, I believe the hamstring's focus is to stay healthy. I believe a strong hamstring does not allow you to run faster. I do believe that
Mm,
an explosive foot and ankle is really, really important for speed. And then if I was going to focus on just one thing, it would not be any particular part of the body. It would be, well, I guess it is the CNS. It's the brain and spinal cord and nerves, because speed is electrical. Now, weight room people want to tell you it's muscular, but the strongest people are seldom the fastest. There's nothing I could ever see a kid do in the weight room that would make me say, you're going to anchor my 4x1 this year. But if I saw him dunk a basketball, I'd say, you might anchor my 4x1 this year, because
Wow.
the ability to jump and the ability to, we call them box jumps, where guys jump over imaginary boxes. The ability to jump real high and then hit that ground and bounce off the ground. Those are things that sprinters do well. And I think that's a nervous system thing. That's the ability for your nervous system to fire quickly and relax quickly. If you think about muscles, things, they're really pretty dumb. They can contract and then they relax. And the ability to contract fast and relax fast is the key to sprinting, which is why the more you squat does not mean you're going to run faster, because those are slow contractions. I'm not saying the strength is bad. I think strength is good. But if you're trying to get fast by squatting, I think you're misplacing your attention.
That's some good stuff there, Coach. That is some good stuff. That is some good stuff. We got a couple of questions here, Peters and Ty. Let's see. They want to know when your book is coming out. I know you talked about it earlier. They might not been in here. So once it come out, I'm guessing you'll have, it'll be on your web. How can they find your book? When it's going to come out, and how can they get that information?
Well, it's probably going to be a New York Times bestseller. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I am the only person I know that got a pretty good advance for a book when I've never written a book before. And like I said, I'm not going to send it back. I actually thought I was done last November. I sent it to an editor, and by the time I got it back, I didn't like the book anymore. So I have been in this, kind of a pissed off writer's mood for about 7 months now. And I am on August 1st, I am going to sit down, and that book's going to be done in 8 to 10 weeks. And then it has to go to print and all that kind of stuff. And then it's out of my hands. So it may be out, it could be out by Christmas, maybe soon after, but I think it'll be a good book. And I think just because, the stuff that I say, a lot of people don't say, it's kind of like a new way of looking at things.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be true to yourself, be true to who you are. Everybody's not going to like what you got to say. That's just how it goes.
My guys get a racing. It's fun.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. It's nature of the beast is what I look at it. Here's a question from Ty. More like a statement, I guess. More hamstring injuries come from shorter speed work than longer things, at least for what Ty has seen. What do you think about that, Coach?
Well, there's no doubt that, I've never seen an 800 guy pull a hamstring in a race. Now, I have seen 4x1 guys like anchoring and running super fast, trying to find a gear they've never found before. That's what happens. Once again, it's because of that super fast requirement of contract, relax. I can't even say it as fast as it happens, because it happens in literally fractions of a second. And the only way that we keep that from happening is by getting our body conditioned. I usually don't use the C word, but the conditioned not for laps, but conditioned for spiked up sprinting at full speed. So that's how we bulletproof the hamstrings. And that's what football coaches who are feed the cats football coaches, or sometimes they call themselves sprint-based football coaches, have found out, that if we sprint max velocity twice a week, all through the season, soft tissue injuries almost disappear. It's almost magic. So the point I would want to make to Ty here in this question is that too many coaches say short sprinting is scary because they're going to get hurt. But the reason they get hurt is because they don't do it enough. So now if you don't want to ever pull a hamstring, have your kids run 10 200s every day. They will never pull a hamstring, and they'll never be very fast, and they'll get hurt. They'll get injured in other ways. They'll have bad shins and things like that. But the hamstring itself, you just really have to expose it to sprinting and not be afraid of short sprinting.
Would you say that hamstring, I guess, issues are more common than short sprinters? Somebody's going to have it every now and then. Somebody's going to have it. Mostly, if you're fast, elite, you're going to have something's going to happen with your hamstring.
We hope not. I have probably in my 25, I started feeding the cats, the low volume stuff, all sprint and jump, no laps. 25 years, 1999, I guess 26 years ago. And in those 26 years, I probably had 22 of those 26 years where I had every single sprinter healthy at the end of the season.
That's good. That's good.
One. And one of them down is too many. I'm not a college coach that can go out and recruit 8 new kids every year. I'm a public school coach. Like the only kids that run on my track team are people that live in my neighborhood. And so if I have 6 fast guys, I can't afford to lose any of them. So everything we do is about being fast, but also being healthy, both mentally and physically.
Okay. Nice. So some preventative measures for the hamstring deal for sprinters will be recovery. If they notice some tightness or something like that, don't keep running on it hard. Let somebody know about it. Would you say that, Coach?
That's another weird thing that we do. If a kid is sore, if he's tired or if he's depressed, they do not practice. And that should be mind blowing. But because back in your day and my day, we just rubbed dirt on it and did it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because we wanted to become men or something, But I want great track athletes. And so if a kid comes in and says, Coach, my shins are hurting a little bit, I'll say, okay, you're not sprinting today. And they'll argue with me. Oh, no, I'm not that bad. But you told me that it was hurting a little bit. If you take today off, you will be 100% tomorrow. And I told that story to a track clinic in Wisconsin. And a guy in the first row says, Coach, do your kids take advantage of you sometimes, though? And I was like, are you kidding? No way. They want to practice. You must be thinking that our practices must suck, like your practices suck.
Yeah.
But if kids love practice, and we are doing in a 45-minute speed day, we're doing less than 2 minutes of work in 45 minutes. There is nothing that kids want to get out of. And that's the other thing about, if you love something, you're willing to do hard things. You're willing to fight, and you're willing to run a hard 400 where you feel like you're going to die at the end. And you just keep on going because you love it and you love your team and you love your coach. So those things are all part of it. But no, we do not run when we are semi-injured, sore, depressed, tired, because that's when injuries happen.
And that's good. That's good stuff, Coach. And I'm glad that you mentioned depressed, because I'm always hitting on the mental part of track and field, sports in general, because it's a lot. And I just think that more coaches should ask about, how an athlete, is doing after a race, or if they come to practice, if they're not the person that you see all the time, if they acted different, there's something going on with them, and that brings us to this question here. Can mental stress or academic pressure impact a sprint performance or injury, or become an injury risk.
That's absolutely true. There's a famous S&C guy named Cal Dietz, who's a pretty good friend of mine. He's he's the S&C guy at the University of Minnesota, and he wrote an amazing book called Triphasic Training. And anyway, he's kind of in my network of coaches and everything, and he has found that it's better to take days off around finals
Mm-hmm.
because that's when kids get hurt and that's when they perform poorly. And you are exactly right. Our brain, if some kid had a nasty breakup with his girlfriend, um, that's not going to be a good practice. He's probably better off going home and taking a nap and getting over it. But
Yeah.
here it goes right back to developing relationships, though. You know how good of a relationship I have to have with my kids that they would feel comfortable to tell me how they feel. I mean, that's unique. But yet I think that's the art of coaching, that good coaches have good relationships with their athletes where I'm not afraid to tell a kid like, "Man, you were terrible today. What's wrong?" And they're not afraid to tell me what's wrong. So
Yeah.
so it's that give and take, but you're exactly right. Our goal should be happy and healthy kids, which is not like goofy happy. It's not like birthday party happy. We're talking about I love track. I can't wait to practice today. I feel great. Let's go. And and we get that by low doses, but we also get that by taking 3 days off every week. I learned
Mm-hmm.
that from a guy named Gabe Sanders, who was coaching the sprinters at Stanford. And he told me they were like overachieving. They were like all American sprint teams and things. And I don't know if you know how hard it is to get into Stanford. I mean, it is
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah.
you have to be like a rocket scientist to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't go out and just find fast kids. He was developing kids. And he said one of the keys to his program was a 4-day work week. And I asked why he did that. He said, "There's so much academic stress here, so much. I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like if we went 5 or 6 days, I would burn the stake. We would not be as good." But what he learned was that they performed much better than he thought they should because they took more time off and they were healthier mentally and physically.
Yeah. 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 That's very important. I got to go back to the official visits, the schools you're looking at, for these high school kids. You need to know where you're going before you get there, or have a good idea on how it's going to be, because you go there and you can't handle track practice, you can't handle school, and you homesick, and it's hard. It's hard.
And some schools, especially now with the weird NIL stuff and all that, I mean, they don't want a big track team. Matter of fact, I don't
Yep.
think they want a track team. They don't want a team. They want a small group of athletes that have a chance to excel and become all Americans, and then the coach pads his resume. But there are still track teams out there. For
Hmm.
example, Joey Woody at the University of Iowa does
Hmm.
a fantastic job of,
Hmm.
of a team concept where they
Hmm.
are out to win the Big Ten as a team. Now, do they sacrifice all Americans by doing that? I don't think so. I think everything's going to work out just fine. But I think that team support stuff, the
Uh-huh.
best track programs function as a team, not as a small group of potential All Americans. And so that would be my advice to a kid. Find out
Mhm.
find out if half the team leaves every year. If they do, that's not probably not a good place. And now if everybody can't wait for the next season and nobody's leaving and the coach talks about team, that's a place that's going to support you.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Make sure you're paying attention to what's going on. If you seeing every freshmen that come in there leaving the next year or whoever. It's something could be going on there. And also, coach, what is it? I'm gonna ask you this: what about the athletes that leave that school, go to another school, then they leave that school, they go to another school after that? That's 3 schools your junior year. It might not be the coach then. It might not be the schools, you know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right there. And I feel so sorry for those kids.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I went to college at a Division III school the way college was meant to be. I went to a small
Hmm.
school called Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, and people lived on campus. They didn't go home on the weekends. We were a community. It was very academic, um, but that community feel
Hmm.
was so good. And I was there for 4 years, and I think the
Yeah,
friendships you develop over four
yeah.
years. These people that transfer, they're not having the same experience as I had,
Nope, nope.
and I feel sorry for those people.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I feel bad for him, coach. So this is going to be the final question here, coach. Then we're gonna get out of here. Um, and then, guys, if y'all have any questions, send them now because we're gonna get out of here about the next 5 minutes. So, but coach, here you go. How can parents and coaches work together to support both the athletic and academic development of young sprinters?
That sounds like an essay I would like to write. Uh, the there's some do's and don'ts.
uh,
First of all, I'm a parent of 4 kids, so I understand. Plus, I've coached for 44 years. I've coached athletes that had terrific parents, and some that had no parents, no home, and I
mhm,
and then I've coached some that had good people as parents, but they were crazy. They went crazy. It's like the parents' jobs were not interesting enough that they did not think about their sons or daughters' athletic experience 24/7. I mean, if
mhm.
you're an adult and you're living through a 16-year-old sprinter, you need to become more of an adult, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
Some of the mistakes that people like that make is that they are constantly trying to add to the training of their kid. In other words, like, I say, hey, we're on the track 4 days a week. We never run more than 200. Okay, what some dad might do is my kid needs more, so they're doing double workouts.
Yeah.
They're doing double workouts, or they're maybe their uncle owns a gym or something like that, and they're taking them to a gym. They're doing all these, and I don't, as a coach, I don't know the kid's doing this, and so the kid is burning the candle. My grandfather used to say this:
Mhm.
burning the candle at both ends. And this is not going to work well. They're always going to end up injured. We
Yeah.
coached a great quarterback in football one time whose dad was in the NFL for 10 years. And his dad, we found out, was taking his boy to the track every day during football season and running 20 hundreds at 6 a.m. in the morning. And
Ooh.
we were wondering why this poor kid was tired every day. Now, was the dad a bad person? He was a fabulous person, smart, but that's the way he grew up. And so they were doing double workouts without telling the coach. And so you got to resist that. And I
Yeah.
think as a parent, you've got to have a life that's exciting enough that
Mhm.
you don't have to live every minute of your day through your kid. The thing that you can really do for the coach is this. My pyramid of performance, the base is rest, recovery, and sleep.
Mhm.
That, and I would probably add nutrition, hydration in there too. If you could get your kids, instead of like scheduling extra workouts, if you could get your kid to eat real food and drink 6 glasses of water every day and get to bed without their cell phone before 10:30 or 11, if you could do those things, you would be doing more than enough to help that kid be the best that they could be. It's kind of the opposite of double training.
Hmm.
It's focusing on that rest, recovery, and mental health thing. And of course, gosh, grades in school, that starts when the baby's born. You better start reading to that baby when that baby's born, or maybe before it's born. Read while it's still in the mother's belly. You know, reading and then modeling reading. Like you pick up a book and read, your kid will want to read someday because you showed him how important that was. And then I just think that really good families have a healthy attitude towards to school. And if
Hmm.
you don't, the kids are going to say school sucks and it's going to be awful. But good coaches, I think, are on the same page as good parents when it comes to that. That that I'm able to talk to kids, and my favorite kids to work with are the difficult kids, the
Hmm.
kids that I think are going to be in prison someday. If
Yeah.
if if something doesn't happen in their life, and I have found as a coach, if you can get a kid to love a sport, it'll start it'll start spreading to other parts of his life. They will start having better friends to hang with. They will start their attendance in school will become better. By the way, attendance is the number one problem
Yep.
of bad grades. You've got to get your kids to school every day.
Hmm.
I mean, good students, they go to school every day. And bad students, they think that missing one day a week is good enough. It's not. They need to be in school every day. So that's a great question. That's really what we're all about, right? As
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
teachers and coaches.
Yeah. And I just want to piggyback on that. Those academics, it should be number one. The way oh, Instagram works equal force distance said, excellent, coach. You're doing a good job. Got to
Oh, thank
comment on there. But yeah, as far as academics, my eyes as a parent, I always told my daughter, focus on your academics. If you get a scholarship, cool. When you get to college, you need to still focus on your academics, be the best athlete you can, go to practice, work hard. If anything happen after college where you can run next level or something like that, cool. But we're not going to focus on that. That's not going to be our main focus. Our main focus is getting that education first. Get that education, and whatever happens with track and field is going to happen if you continue to work hard in track and field too. I just think a lot of times, especially at a young age, a lot of parents are like, um, "You're going to be an Olympian," and this kid is 9 years old. And they fail it. They fail at school. you
And
know.
you and I both know that I coached Marcellus Moore, who was he was state record holder still in Illinois. Like I say, he ran 9.996 win legal. He won the Millrose games indoors this year. He's still only 22 years old, but
Hmm.
in the trials he was 15th, and only the top three in the 100 go. How good do you have to be an Olympian? I mean, it is.
Tell
It's.
you.
I'm like, if there was an NBA, if track was the NBA, Marcellus would be starting in the NBA right now because there's like 30 teams.
Yep.
There's just one Olympic team, and you get 300-meter guys. So it is now. Now Marcellus has had a great experience. He's got to
Hmm.
travel the world. In high school, he got to run in Iceland. I mean, like, he just had a great time with it, and he's still. I think his best days are ahead of him because he's
Hmm.
still only 22. And matter of fact, he may have turned. I think 11 days ago he turned 23. So he's still got great years ahead of him, and
Yeah.
to put too much pressure on a kid instead of letting them have fun doing it.
Exactly.
If they have fun, I think they'll go as high as they can.
Yep. Yep. And I kind of learned that early, and I'm glad I did with my daughter in track. Let them have fun, let them develop, and they'll learn pretty quick. As long as they enjoying that, they'll go longer. You put that stress on them, and this and this is they go burn out. They go burn out. They go feel like they letting you down and all this other stuff. But just continue to support whatever they do. It's not all about medals all the time. To me, a medal is a medal. To look good, shiny, all that good stuff. Yeah, it is. But let that athlete develop. How many times do you see these athletes, especially in youth track, winning? And by time junior year, senior, athlete pop out of nowhere, blowing everybody out. You be like, where did they come from? Who is this person?
That's right.
And sometimes they naturals, right? And sometimes they just been developing the whole time, and they've been doing it right. I just think that sometimes there just be too much pressure on those small kids, I mean, everybody want to win. I like winning, but sometimes we need to kind of tone that stuff down and make sure we getting that kid developed right for high school, then college, and all that. And don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush. It's some parents and some coaches. They got this rush mindset. And it's gonna wear the kid out. Man, coach, I can write an essay on that, coach.
I know you can. That's why you call it that podcast.
I can go on and all about that. But any ending remarks, Coach, before we get out here, and also, can you give your social media handles, your YouTube, or where can they find you?
Yeah, on Twitter. The Twitter is the only platform that I myself totally own, and that's at PN Track, like Plainfield North, PN Track, at PN Track, or you just look up my name. But I have two sons that are coaches, but my son, who is not a coach, is my content manager, and so he runs my Insta, he runs my YouTube, he runs my TikTok. God, I'm on Facebook now. That's scary. You know what I mean? So I think I'm on Threads. I mean,
Yeah.
so he's put me out there like that. And then I'm the number 2 seller all time at a place called CoachTube. CoachTube has courses for coaches. And the only guy that's sold more courses than me is Hal Mummy, the great football coach from Texas that was that started the air raid offense. He was the head coach when Mike Leach was his assistant at Iowa Wesleyan, and then they both grew into the people they are now. But my courses are really good, and and I answer emails so people can. I think I'm one of the few people. If you ask, like Google, like what's Tony Holler's cell number, I think it comes up. So that's probably not smart, but I'm easy to. You found me, so I'm easy to find.
And I'm trying. Let me grab your. I'm going to your Facebook page, not your Facebook. Sorry, your Instagram page now, so I can.
I think that's at Coach Tony Holler, maybe.
Yes, I can put it in the comments right here. I got it right here. Let's see. We'll put that in there, guys. I'm putting Coach's IG in there, and also let me grab this. I believe it's the link tree right here. Yeah, let me grab that. Now put that in here. So if you go to the comments, you'll find Coach's link tree and also IG. Just click on that. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He has more videos on there as well. Like and follow him on all his social media sources. So, but Coach, once again, I appreciate you coming on. It was very informational for me as well, as a parent, as a track and field fan. Yeah, a lot of very interesting points. I can't wait for your book to come out. When that book come out, make sure you let me know. Also, and guys, just be on the lookout for that book. I believe you said December, maybe.
Oh,
Before December.
That would really that would be pushing it. I just hope it comes out sometime in the next 10 months.
Okay, all right. But yeah, be on the lookout, guys. If it come out and I see it, I'll blast it everywhere so y'all can get that book. But we gonna get out of here. Go follow Coach. Coach, thank you once again. And if you don't have anything else, we're gonna get out of here.
Thank you so much, fans. Appreciate you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank y'all. See y'all later. Peace.
The champs is here. Yo, we out here on the track when the dreamers run. Each step a testament, yeah, we get it done. Crushing all the hurdles, waiting through the pain. The Texas sun shines bright as we train in the lane. Push it to the limit, never look back. Texas track dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas track dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. From Dallas to Houston, yeah, we're raising the bar. Every athlete's story, every victory a star. We hustle on the field, focus sharp like a spear. The clock's ticking down, but the finish line is near. With every single stride, we own the sound. Texas track dad, we run the show. Talking fast times, how the athletes grow. In the podcast groove, we bring the heat. From the field to the mic, can't accept defeat. So lace up your shoes, let the journey commence. Texas track dad, we build the suspense.